Hi, I'm Beth Summers from the Wilton Test Kitchen, and I'm really excited to show you today how to make my very favorite icing, Swiss meringue buttercream. It's delicious, it's got a rich, creamy flavor, and it's very smooth and silky, and that's why it's my favorite. Now, what differentiates meringue buttercreams from a traditional Wilton buttercream is the use of egg whites. And what we're going to do is we're going to cook egg whites to a safe temperature to eat, which is 160 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we can combine that together with our other ingredients to make a really, really silky, delicious buttercream. So for this recipe, you will need 4 egg whites separated from 4 whole eggs, 1 cup of granulated sugar, a pinch of salt, 3 sticks of butter, softened all the way to room temperature and then cut into chunks about 1 tablespoon big is good, and 1 to 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract, depending on the taste that you like. Now, what you're also going to need is a thermometer, because as I said, we need to cook our eggs to 160 degrees to make sure they're safe to eat, and you're going to need to cook in some kind of a double boiler. I'm going to do that today directly in my mixing bowl. If you have a bowl like this and a pot that it will sit in without touching the water underneath, that works perfectly and you won't have to dirty another dish. So I'm going to do mine right in here. So into our mixing bowl, or the top of your double boiler, put your egg whites, the 1 cup of granulated sugar, and the pinch of salt. And give it a good whisk just to get it combined. And it's going to look pretty viscous. We're going to put that onto our double boiler. And you're going to need to let this cook, like I said, to 160 degrees. That's going to take a different amount of time depending on how cold your egg whites are going into the mix. But do not walk away from this. It's a lot like making caramel. It's going to go slowly at first, and then it's going to go more quickly once it starts to get warm. At the beginning, you don't need to whisk it constantly, but as it does become warmer, whisk it all the time, constantly, so that the eggs don't scramble in the bowl. You want to keep the mixture moving as it comes up to temperature so that it cooks nice and evenly and you have no egg chunks. So once your mixture reaches 160 degrees, it's going to look very white and kind of foamy and a little bit more loose than it did beforehand. So what you want to do now is transfer it to a mixing bowl, or put your mixing bowl right on if you used it like I did. And with a whip attachment at high speed, you're going to whip the mixture until it completely cools down to room temperature. This takes some time. Just let it whip until the outside of the bowl feels completely cool to the touch. So when your bowl is cool to the touch, that's when you know that it's ready, and that does take a good amount of time. Don't rush it, because if it's not room temperature, once you start to add your butter, which is our next step, it's going to melt in the mixture and it's going to be really soupy. It won't set up as an icing. So this is what you're looking for. Congratulations, you've made meringue. This is where the name Swiss meringue comes from. It's got a sheen to it, it's very opaque, and it holds a stiff peak when you pull the beater out of it. Medium peak, that's fine. Believe me, this is very, very sticky. So now we're going to switch to a paddle attachment. And I find banging this just really the easiest way to get it all off of the whip. And it kind of goes all over, but yeah, it's part of the fun of baking. So we're going to transfer to our paddle attachment. So sticky, it's kind of like marshmallow. And we're going to begin adding our butter, 1 chunk at a time. And remember, your butter is very soft, and that's so that it will incorporate very easily into your mixture. So we're going to do this on low to medium speed, 1 chunk at a time, making sure that each addition is fully incorporated into the meringue before you add another piece. If you rush it, and resist the urge to add more than 1 piece, because if you rush it, you're going to end up with some lumps in your buttercream that are really hard to get out later on. So be patient with this. Cooking the eggs takes a little bit of time, whipping the meringue takes a little bit of time, and adding the butter takes a little bit of time, but the end result is fabulous. So just continue until you've added all your butter. Along the way, you're going to notice the buttercream doing two different things. After you add about 4 tablespoons of butter, it's going to start to look soupy. It gets a lot looser. That's normal. Don't worry. Just continue to add your butter after one piece is incorporated, add your next, and continue on. Don't freak out. At some point about halfway through adding the butter, you're going to want to stop the mixer and scrape down the bottom and the sides of your bowl well, because some of that meringue that's left over will stick to the sides and the bottom of the bowl. We just want to make sure everything is good and incorporated, and a really quick scrape helps us to do that. Okay, so I'm very close to being done adding my butter, and as you'll notice, it looks like the buttercream has actually curdled. Again, fear not, this is normal, it always happens. Continue on with your last few bits of butter, continue beating a little bit longer, and it will just magically come together. The last thing to do is to add our flavor, and here I'm just using pure vanilla extract. So as you can see, it's smooth and luscious and creamy and completely consistent all the way around, which is exactly what we want. Now I flavored mine with pure vanilla extract, which of course is delicious, but you can do a lot of other things. Extracts work great, or you could do melted chocolate or cocoa powder, but keep in mind this is a softer consistency icing, which means it will not hold a lot of liquid. So if you want to flavor with coffee or a fruit juice, consider making your coffee extra strong, or reducing your fruit juice a little bit, maybe on the stovetop, to concentrate the flavor so that you can add less. This recipe will only take between 2 and 3 tablespoons of liquid before it starts to break on you. So just keep that in mind when you're choosing your flavor options. Now, as I mentioned, it's a thin to a medium consistency icing. It's perfect for icing a cake, but I don't recommend using Swiss meringue to make things like roses, which require a stiffer icing. But any way you slice it, Swiss meringue is delicious, and we hope you give it a try.